Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the Arbiter's Grounds. I am Eesgooshee.
I'm Dapplesnapalot.
And this place is a big prison. That's actually what its role is in the story. Is that back in the olden times, this was the prison where they'd send people. And instead of executing them... Actually, they did execute quite a few people, but some other people they sent to some alternate dimension, which we later learn is the Twilight realm.
Is it the Twilight Zone? Or
Realm.
Realm?
Yeah, it is.
It's not the Phantom Zone?
No.
Oh. Are you sure?
Yeah.
There's no Zod in where Midna comes from?
No, just a Zan.
Spoiler alert. Zan to Zod.
That sand you'll actually sink into. But if you're rolling, you can sort of scoot over it. Like, ideally, you want to roll as late as possible and roll right over the sand to the next platform.
It's been a while since the Sci-Fi Channel made a Tremors sequel.
I think Tremors was on the other night. Like the actual movie. Here's a big... That's a big a vat of lantern oil. So this is what happens if you don't roll. Hey, you remember The Mummy? That was a pretty cool movie.
It was amazing.
So basically just take out your lantern and those guys won't touch you. If they do jump on you, they won't hurt you, they'll just slow you down. And then you just spin attack to get them off. Or I think even just taking out your lantern again will work.
You know what game had the worst bugs ever?
What?
Silent Hill 2.
I could probably think of worse bugs. So here are these guys that stalk him.
They were tiny people when they were alive.
They're really funny. Something really fun to do with them is if there's just one left, take out your claw shot and start poking it in the face with it. And it takes like 4 claw shot hits to kill them, but it's just funny. Because it's almost like some really tall person holding someone back saying, "You can't hit me, you can't hit me."
Oh, it's those guys.
Oh, where have we seen this before?
You should stop them before they take those.
I wonder if their names are Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy.
What?
You're supposed to say something like, was that their name in Ocarina of Time? And then I would have said, no, I just really like the novel Little Women.
Mm.
I even looked up who wrote that. I can't think of who wrote it now.
That one right there is Inky.
Sure, we'll go with that instead of the Little Women thing.
Do they die in that or something?
No, the ones in Ocarina of Time were named Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy as a reference to the book by Louisa May Alcott. That's who wrote it.
Ouch.
Jeez, get some literacy.
Fine. I'll read something.
It's funny because you read a lot more than I do anyway.
I just have no desire to read Little Women when I could be reading John Dies at the End. Greatest American novel ever.
So I remember back in middle school, we used to have this program where you would read a book and then you would take a test about it on the computer. And each book was worth like a set amount of points. By the way, these staircases are awesome. I never get tired of those kind of staircases in anything ever. They're amazing. But you would read a book and then you would take a test on it, and each book was worth a certain amount of points. Say like 10 points or 15 points. And then you would take a 10-question test, and then your percentage on that will determine how many points you got. And you had to get like a certain amount of points each semester. And I remember Little Women had the most points, base points, out of any book ever. It had like 60. You could read that and have enough points for like 2 school years.
I'm pretty sure they didn't carry over, though.
I know they didn't.
I think the best deal was the Lord of the Rings books, because each one was worth like the same number of points as the semester or whatever it was, or quarter. I think it was quarter.
Yeah, something like that.
So you would read like the 3 books and The Hobbit, and you'd be set for the year. And at bonus points, they're actually good books. So
yeah.
But
I do remember one of the books on the list was The Shining. And the teacher wouldn't let me get the points for that because it was unsuitable material for an 8th grader or whatever.
Did you read it already?
I hadn't read it already,
All
but I read it anyway because I wanted to, and it was a good book. But down there we saw the Re-Dead Knight for the first time. Despite the fact that this game is like really dark and realistic, this is probably the least creepy incarnation of the Re-Dead in the entire series. Because in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, they would hump you to death.
You're like something out of Silent Hill.
I would like to point out that you made the last 2 Silent Hill references. That was not
All they would have to do is spew acid, and they'd be entirely from Silent Hill.
And then the ones in Wind Waker are actually probably the creepiest ones, even though they're the most cartoonish. And that's because if you shot one with like an arrow or the boomerang, it would just slowly, like they start staring at the ground, they would slowly turn their head and stare into your soul with their lifeless eyes, and then just go back to staring at the ground. And it was even worse if you shot them with a fire arrow, because they would do that on fire. They wouldn't even be fazed by it. They would just be engulfed in flames and just look at you. Their eyes wouldn't even start glowing. They would just look at you, stare at you with their eye sockets, and then look back down. And it is creepy as hell. But in this game, they're not that creepy. They're actually more akin to Gibdos from the previous games than Re-Deads, because they're all mummified. And, but yeah, they have a giant stick that they hit you with. Which, you know, everything in this game tries to hit you with a stick. It's not scary. And I don't know, they still freeze you, but if you just mash A, it's easy enough to get out of. And if you're holding off to the side, you also jump off to the side, so that they miss, and then you hit A again to do the jump strike. And then you just attack them. And there's an even better way to take them out, which I'll show off later. But that's it for this video.
Go through that door next.
I will! In the next video!
Oh.